That was my upbringing, very good upbringing, and I had no choice but to move to Australia. But yeah, going through the years in prison and doing the things that I did in prison as well, got involved with a prison gang, with the boys. I spent a lot of time around dangerous individuals, if you want to call it that. So I'm a virgin, I have erectile dysfunction, but it was through all of that where God was like, you're actually special. You know what I mean? Like, I've actually got this plan for you.
Young soldier of God, steady march.
Kia ora whanau. My name is David Obida, 32 years old. My dad's from the north. My dad's actually half Pākehā, half Māori. On his Māori side, he whakapapas back to the north. My mum's Cook Island, from Rarotonga, from Ararangi. Alright, so I'm originally from a small town called Tokoroa. Grew up single mother family. My nan was in the picture as well, had an older brother there. I'm the youngest of my siblings. Single mum. My mum did her absolute best to raise me. Never went without, to be honest, growing up. Now that I've started doing these podcasts and doing these interviews, I really realize now how actually blessed my upbringing was. So yeah, bro, that was my upbringing. Very good upbringing. We moved to Auckland when I was 8 or 9, something like that. We ended up moving to West Auckland, so I started going to school out there. I started reconnecting with my dad during this time as well, which was cool, which was good. And yeah, sort of just went from there, man. No sort of... I did used to get into little bits of trouble growing up, looking back now. Yeah, not sure why though, to be honest. Like, well, yeah, maybe not having a father figure in those early ages. So I used to like love starting fires and just always doing like little stuff like that, tagging. But yeah, it wasn't like I was growing up around people that were like that though. So yeah, I'm not sure what the goal was there. Oh, so my mum ended up meeting a man who she got married to. They're divorced now, but she got married to this man. Yeah, I sort of try and look back on this in his favor as well. You know, like he was a good dude. He probably did want the best for me in a sense, but he was real. Like the way he would go about that though was just a bit. You know, he was racist as well. So he didn't like Islanders and Māoris. Like always trash talking Māoris and Islanders all the time. So I used to hate that. You know, and especially because because I didn't grow up in a cultural home. Growing up for me, like my mum didn't teach me nothing about the Cook Islands. Like knowing now though that my mum went through a lot there, and I mean my mum took off from there when she was a teenager. Didn't want to have anything to do with the islands because of what she had gone through. So like growing up and trying to find that cultural identity as well. Like my mum wasn't, my mum didn't teach me nothing about Raro. There was no sort of, my mum was sort of like white, you know what I mean? Like my mum was just like New Zealand, you know what I mean? Like she didn't really teach me anything about the Cook Islands, even though growing up I actually did really want to know. So my dad, when I moved to Auckland, he started getting into the picture as well. But yeah, I mean he knows, he was quite um just a bit of mental abuse, you know what I mean? Quite, but like yeah, real short fuse, really short. So basically, like walking on eggshells around him when he was around. So, a lot of anxiety, like a lot of like, don't want to mess up when dad's around because he's going to flip it. But then because of that, I'm more likely to mess up or do something stupid, because I'm like walking on eggshells. So I was just that, never really feeling at ease. Unless he was like stoned or drunk on that thing, because my dad was the opposite. Like when he was stoned or when he had alcohol, he was like the best dude to be around. I used to love it when he was on it, but when he wasn't, it was like just fully rigid. And yeah, so that definitely had its effects. Keeping in mind now that like me and my dad are best mates though. Like nowadays me and my dad are real close. See him pretty much every day. So I'm really blessed to have that sort of relationship with my dad. I ended up leaving to go back to Tokoroa because my uh, mum ended up moving to Australia. Um, yeah, that was a bit tough as well. When she left. But yeah, I ended up moving into my auntie's house. That wasn't the best situation either. Was getting into bits of trouble the whole way through, getting into trouble at school, suspended. But I wasn't like the tough kid or nothing like that. I was always the skinny kid. Um, if anything, getting picked on, stuff like that. That's why a lot of like my childhood mates from ages ago, they trip out when they realize like what I ended up doing, in life. Um, so yeah, I ended up moving in with my dad eventually. Um, and I love my dad, like I said, but yeah, it was he was just a hard man and short fuse. So I ended up getting kicked out of there, which wasn't a big issue though, especially now. But yeah, I was just doing little stupid stuff, so I got kicked out, and I had no choice but to move to Australia. So went over there. Yeah, so moving to Aussie, just like you, man, just a big culture shock. Didn't really want to be there though in those beginning stages. I wanted to stay in New Zealand. So moving to Australia, it was like bit of resentment as well to my mum for going there in the first place. Like such a big place, like real multicultural, especially where I lived. Yeah, so what area was it? Also, I moved to Springvale, so that's like the southeast end of Melbourne. So yeah, a lot of Asian people. Yeah, so it was like a lot of Vietnamese people. So I remember like going down the main strip and seeing people like selling smack and but not realizing that's what they're doing, but just like, why are these guys always standing out the front here? Like same people every day, they're always here, like, and they're all selling drugs and doing all that sort of stuff. So yeah, came here and then, meeting like all the different nationalities, meeting all the Sudanese boys and like, you know, um, like buzzing out, like on all these different cultures. And I had family over in Melbourne as well, so ended up meeting all of them. So I started going to school for a little bit there, but then ended up, yeah, it wasn't, like, I think I went for like a month and then, yeah, just started wagging all the time and meeting sort of the streeties, meeting all the little hood rats that was hanging around on the streets and stuff. And yeah, got to the point where I started running away from home. Just didn't feel comfortable at the home, especially with my stepdad there. Yeah, little issues going on at home. So yeah, sort of turned to the street life. Um, but yeah, like I said, like even with my stepdad, like he was quite like like he was, I guess, wealthy. Especially to me at that time, having us coming from a single mother family and then meeting him, like now we're like middle class, you know what I mean? So it was like, so we had a good home there, and I remember when the boys used to come to my house and see my house, they would be like, bro, this is a mean house, you know what I mean? Like, this is all good, but yeah, it just wasn't a comfortable situation at home. So I always used to take off and started getting involved in little petty crime, which I was already doing back here in New Zealand anyway, but yeah, started getting a bit more into that and stealing cars and just the usual sort of progression there. Um, then, yeah, left school, just got really into the street life, drugs, alcohol. Yeah, mainly weed and alcohol, but every day, but every day getting on the weed, every day getting on the alcohol, heavy drinking for that age. And yeah, so then from there, I was 19. I went to, I went to a youth justice facility. At 19 years old, a place called Malmesbury. So that's from like 18 to 25 in Melbourne. Went there, got sentenced to 12 months. Ended up getting out from there, and then yeah, basically from there, went back to jail. Did 2 years back to mainstream prison, and then got out again. Um, then went back to prison again for four and a bit years, so almost 7 years all up. But yeah, once I started getting locked up, I sort of found a purpose. You know what I mean, in a sense, because by that time I was just so lost. Though I think the challenges for going to prison, obviously being locked up, you know, um, But then also going in there and feeling like, because when I went to prison as well, I had a lot of mates in there. You know, like I was like pretty much the only one that hadn't been locked up by that point. You know, all my mates had been through juvie and then going on to prison. So when I went in there, there was like a whole bunch of people that I knew, you know, and I guess that was a challenge in a sense, you know, because then I just felt like, well, this is where I'm meant to be at, you know, and not really seeing any future in my own life, you know, because like I said, I was just a petty criminal, you know, and you know I wasn't living the balling, high rolling life or anything like that. Um, so yeah, that was definitely a challenge, and I think the other challenge was just having no purpose. So then when I went in there, it was like, well, I just want to make something of this. Then you know, like I want to, because you know how it is. Because in jail is so much easier, in a sense, to like make a name in a way, you know what I mean, than what it is on the outside. Because in jail there is no like money or there is money, but it's just a lot different dynamic. You know, like you know how you get people like boobed out people and then there's something in jail and then they get out and then they're like nothing out here. You know what I mean? So then they want to go back, like that sort of, you know, way of thinking. So yeah, like looking back, like the challenges, obviously, there's a lot of challenges. Being away from family, letting my mum down, you know, and knowing that my mum's out there, praying for me every day. I think one of the challenges as well. So you don't know about this, bro. This is actually something that I've started coming out about. Yeah, bro. So just recently, I've done a few podcasts. One actually dropped last night. I haven't been sharing it much though because I'm waiting to get back to Auckland to start doing the reels on it and start speaking about it. So I'm a virgin. I have erectile dysfunction. Well, the reason why I've started to come out publicly with it was because I found the Lord. So in my journey with finding Christ after being deported, since then I've had like relapses on nothing hard, but mainly weed and alcohol. Mainly weed. So I kept relapsing. I'm not kept relapsing, like I'd have relapses where I'd start smoking again. And the most latest relapse I had was about 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So I started getting on the weed again, but then I started drinking heavily as well. 4 months ago. Yeah, so I started drinking heavily again, like to the point where I was drinking every day. 4 years of finding my faith and being on this good journey, I've had little slip ups. Let's say 3 slip ups. The latest slip up, let's say for about a month, bro, I was drinking every day. Or maybe not every day, but most days. And heavily though, you know, heavy drinking. And that was the question, like, why? You know, so, but the thing is, like, during all of this as well, like, I have, you know, my brothers and, you know, like my faith family and brothers in the faith who I'm very open with. And, you know, every time I tell them, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, I'm slipping up, bruh. Like, you know, I'm back on the weed and the drink again. Like, pray for me. And, you know, I need help. So it's not something that I do in secret or anything like that. So the very last time, so I have a very good brother of mine who's basically like a spiritual advisor for me. A man I respect a lot. And we teed up and we were catching up and he's just like, bro, like, what's going on? And it was like God speaking straight to me though, you know, through him. He was like, there's something that you're not talking about. That's the reason why you keep doing this, you know? And the thing is, with all of that stuff, I never thought I'd tell another living soul. You know, I thought this was pretty much something that I was going to take to the grave, you know? And, you know what I mean? And because I always looked at it like I didn't look at it as like traumatic in a sense. You know, like I didn't think it was something that I needed to unpack because I didn't look at it like it's this traumatic thing, like or abuse or anything like that. I didn't like this was way different, you know. So I thought there's no need for me to talk about it. You know what I mean? And so, but then he was like, "Bro, there's something you're not talking about." And then But that was the only thing left, you know. I've already put it all out there, everything except this. And it was like, it's this. You know what I mean? Like, it was like God saying, like, you gotta start talking about it. You know, you gotta start being open about this. I remember I was telling my mate, like, bro, I can't, you know. But at that point, I hadn't told another living soul. So I was like, I can't do it, bro. I can't do it. He's like, fair enough, bro. Um, but that was when I realized this was something that I gotta talk about. The reality is, I'll never have sex. I'll never have a family. And I guess that is pretty traumatic, bro, to think about that. So, you know, it is a weight to carry, but I couldn't tell my mate at that point in time. He organized for me to see a counselor, um, a church counselor. Saw that church counselor, told him straight away on that first session. And then I worked up the courage to start talking about it with other brothers and that. So I've told quite a few people now, even women, I've told. Um, but the first time I'd opened up about the erectile dysfunction part was with a close brother of mine, and he was just a brother of mine, you know, high-ranking gang member, um, was wanting to turn his life around and stuff. Um, but one of his biggest struggles was lust. So multiple girlfriends type situation, and he was just struggling, you know, like because he had abuse in his childhood and things, and it was just he couldn't stop sleeping around in that, or felt that he couldn't. And there was this one time where he just looked like he was gonna tap out, you know, like it was just on that buzz of like it's too hard, you know what I mean? He just couldn't overcome in that moment. And I just told him, hey, I opened up and I was like, bro, I know you're struggling, but we all got our struggles, you know. And it was an emotional moment. We both cried in that, and so. But yeah, the reason I opened up that time was because I was like, you know, don't look at me and think I ain't struggling, you know. If anything, my struggles are way more than your struggles, you know. The reason I started coming out publicly on my platforms, because I mean, yeah, like 4 months ago, like, I hadn't told another living soul, man, 4 months ago. And now look at me, I'm jumping on podcasts talking about it, like.
That just shows your courage.
Yeah, no, well, the thing is, man, like, I view it because I view it spiritually as well. Well, because I'm like deeply in like the Bible, you know what I mean? So a lot of how I operate my life is like birthed from the Bible and reading that. And, you know, I view the Bible as a collection of scriptures that go way, way back. You know, they're guidelines for how to live our lives and things like this. And the thing is, it's talked about in the Bible that ultimately this is actually what God wants. You know what I mean? Like, because the way I look at it, this is the hand I was dealt. You know what I mean, bro? Like, I didn't really have much choice, to be honest. You know what I mean? So, you know, I can't really come out here and say, like, this is all by choice, man. Like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, it was just the hand I was dealt. You know what I mean? And I viewed this as a curse for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, this is a curse, man. But now I just look at it as a blessing, you know, because, again, like, this is what God wants. You know what I mean? He wants us to stay pure and things like that. He gives us a choice. But the reason I want to come out as well is because we're living in such an over-sexualized world. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of pressure on young people. You know what I mean? There was pressure when I was young, but now it's on a whole different level because of social media. And that's what I want to put out there as well to these young people. Like, yeah, I'm a virgin, but I'm still living my best life. You know what I mean? Like, it's not holding me back and achieving what I want to achieve. And you know, the reason why I want to come out publicly as well is because, like, I'm shooting for the stars with the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, right from the get-go when I started the podcast and started getting into the social media space, like, I was shooting for the top. You know what I mean? Like, I'm planning world domination with all of this. You know what I mean? Like I'm planning on taking on the world, man. And at this point, there's gonna be no backward steps. So I just want to be open and transparent, you know. And I feel like this will open up new doors. But yeah, that's like a big message of mine, that I'm still living my best life. You know, life's still good for me. You know, and the thing is, like, there's a passages in the Bible, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, and Paul talks about how, like, he boasts in his weaknesses. Before that, he talks about he's got a thorn in his side. He said that there was something wrong with him. Who knows what that was? I imagine it was something similar to mine. But he talks about how he had a thorn in his side, and he had asked God to take that thorn away. But God said no, and he said that his strength is made perfect in our weakness, and he says that his grace is sufficient. So, and then Paul goes on to talk about how he boasts in his weaknesses, you know, and so that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm boasting in my weaknesses because I know that in a sense, this is a blessing for me, and the world might not see it that way. But for me, I feel like I'm chosen by God, you know. In Revelations in the Bible, it talks about in the end times there'll be 144,000 virgins. So Revelations is a vision that John has, and he sees 144,000 virgins in it, and they're like angel things, and I'm like, I'm one of them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm one of those people that he saw. I'm one of those 144,000 that he saw. You know, so that's how I view it, bro. I view it purely in a spiritual sense, and yeah. So to backtrack before that, so 19 years old, I developed erectile dysfunction. Um, that was tough in itself, bro. Um, but yeah, going through the years in prison and um, doing the things that I did in prison as well. Got involved with a prison gang with the boys. Got involved in that sort of a lifestyle. Developed a reputation as well for the things that we were doing in prison. So spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. Spent a lot of time around dangerous individuals, if you want to call it that, high-ranking bikie members and club members, which I guess when I got out really helped with the podcast, you know, because I knew so many people from in there. So yeah, in a sense, it was all for a purpose. Towards the arse end of my sentence, had a real bad mental sort of breakdown from things that were happening in my personal life. So it actually had nothing to do with jail. I mean, by that point, it was nothing, you know, it was just things that were going on the outside um, that really broke me down. So, yeah, bro, similar in a sense to you, bro. About the last year of my sentence, I just became like a zombie, bro. Just went into a deep, deep depression where I thought I was going to nick myself, to be honest. Like I said, bro, just personal issues that were going on the outside, and, you know, being stuck in prison, you know, no control whatsoever of what's going on out there. So, yeah, really broke down. Um, yeah, it was tough, man. It's tough when you're going through stuff in prison because obviously it's real hard to open up to people, especially because, you know, you got guys in there that's doing 20 years, you know, 30 years, a long time. So they don't want to hear your issues, you know what I mean? Like when you start, when yeah, they don't want to hear your crap, you know what I mean? They got their own stuff, you know what I mean? Like they got their own stuff that they're dealing with, and they got to keep their shields up, you know what I mean? So it's like you're just alone, really, you know, in a unit with like 100 other people. You're all there by yourself, you know. So um, yeah. So by the time I got deported, 2019, the beginning of 2019, I came back. That was tough, man. You know, the struggles of being deported, not in a good space mentally. But that was the only blessing. Like when I did get out of jail, I was so depressed and run down that I knew I didn't want to go back to jail. You know, the last year had been such a nightmare that there was no way I was going to risk coming back to jail over here. You know, that would have just fried my brain. So that was the one thing. That was the one blessing, not wanting to go back to jail. So when I came back here, I just started working. You know, my dad did furniture moving, so I got work straight away. You know, I hadn't even been back a week. I was already on the truck working every day. Um, I was depressed as drinking heavily, on the drugs straight away. But at the same time, yeah, I was blessed that I just didn't sit around though. You know, like even though I was doing all of those things, I was working every day because I was like, I need to get out of this situation like hard and fast, you know, and I can't just be sitting around like I've seen so many other people do, you know what I mean? And they just get stuck and now they're just, you know, getting involved in crime and stuff like that. Like I just knew I need to get out of here. I need to work. So jumped on the truck, started working every day. And like that went well, to be honest. Like I guess the biggest challenges for me was like all I knew were other crims. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know anyone else really. And then coming back to the area as well, like there was a lot of meth around. Yeah, you know, everyone was sort of on the meth, which was out of it because like I'm coming back and I used to see people that I knew from when I had left. And they were like doing the same stuff, you know what I mean? Still on the meth, still like laboring, still like doing the same work as well. It was like stuff, but that was even more depressing, you know what I mean? Like coming back and like not much had changed really, you know, like it sort of looked really similar to when I had left. So there's that whole depression, obviously not wanting to be here. So yeah, worked, ended up moving in with the boys, feel like on the beach, you know what I mean? So moved into like a mad spot, like right on the beach there, like the people I was all around me were like heavily involved in crime. Um, but I just worked, you know what I mean? That just what kept me away from that. Like, yeah, I'll live with you, but I'm like doing my thing. I'm just gonna work, keep working. Like pretty much everyone that's around me all went to jail for like drug imports and like all of this stuff, you know. So, but that was one of the challenges though, was that I didn't know anyone else. So I was still like associating you know, all the invitations by other boys, like, bro, come around the gym and meet the boys, or, you know what I mean, like that sort of talking with different clubs and stuff like that. But I was always like, oh, nah, because, like, even though I looked all good on the outside and I'm working and now I'm living in a mad place, like, really on the inside, I was like so broken and like so, like, not in a good place. So that's what kept me from like doing anything like that, because I was like, oh, no, because if I slip up, then I'll be even deeper, you know, in the crap. So yeah, so luckily I never joined the club or anything like that. Um, but yeah, eventually I burnt myself out. Um, because yeah, like I say, yeah, it's so buzzy looking back now because I always talk about like how hard it was and how broken I was and the depression, panic attacks, and all of this stuff. But I mean, yeah, if you had seen me though, like even my own family, they would have never have known that I was like going through all of this stuff like on the inside. Because in jail, obviously, you learn how to just not show any emotion or anything like that. So yeah, I think about after a year, I got burnt out, and then that's when it just went real downhill. Continued in the drug use, but now I'm not working, so I got to the point where it's just like just a real dark place. And it was when COVID happened. Just during all that whole COVID period, I just had a real big spiritual awakening during that time, the time of isolation, and the world stopped, you know, so it was like this time of just reassessing everything. And so, yeah, man, that's when everything changed for me. Like, I always try and put this moment into words, but it's so hard, eh? But it was just like I could start hearing the voice of God. But through like revelations and like thoughts that I was getting, like, where are these thoughts coming from? Like that sort of, I never think about this sort of stuff. But it was through all of that where God was like, you know what I mean? Like, I've actually got this plan for you. You might not have realized it till right now, but everything you've gone through in life is to prepare you for what you're about to do. And that's why there's no doubt in my mind that God exists, because everything that He told me then, like looking back now on the last 3 years, like it's like 100 times more. You know what I mean? Like everything He told me was like coming true. Like He was telling me there's a plan for you. There's a purpose. And it's not a small one either. Like he was like, I got a big plan for you. Like wait until you see, like. So it's been a massive spiritual journey for me. Like I said, man, even just opening up about being a virgin, man, like, fuck, bro, like, it's so out of it, man. It's definitely a bombshell, bro. But like I said, I just want to be transparent. I'm really in a blessed position to do the interviews and stuff like that because I sort of end up in like a sort of counselor position in a sense, and it's, but that's just something I've been blessed with, like looking back, like doing all of this stuff, I now realize that my superpower is listening. You know what I mean? Like that's something if someone had asked me my superpower before, it would never have been like listening. But I now know that that's what God's gifted me with, the ability to listen. I don't know, like I just thought, I don't know, it must be like my energy or something like that. But people always open up to me about stuff, like even before I started all this podcast stuff, man. I remember people always used to open up to me about stuff, and I used to be like, "The hell?" Like, yeah, yeah, like what the hell? Like we just met, man. What are you telling me all this crap for? Like I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? Like always. Before, like I was the guy that used to hate social media. Oh no, I mean, like I was always on social media, but like I never used to post. You know what I mean? Like I was always that guy. Like you'll see the active. You know what I mean? Like you'll see that I'm active, but but like I never like post anything. You know what I mean? I'll never change my profile pic. Like I always used to get anxiety about that. Like I'd want to change my profile pic or I'd want to do something, but I used to just get anxious about it. Like that's why people buzzed out that knew me, that see me on social media now because I'm so out there. But like even looking back now, I used to stress about like likes. You know what I mean? I used to get worried. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what if no one likes my thing? You know what I mean? Or like, what if I post and no one likes it? And like just those sorts of thinking. Like getting too caught up on that side of things. I used to have a real bad like out of body like where I'd like be doing the interview but also like I'm like up here like watching myself and just like critiquing myself so bad, just like, bro, what the hell are you doing, man? Like look at you, like you're doing interviews, and especially coming from like a prison background and stuff, it was just like, bro, what are people gonna think of you? You know what I mean? Like, bro, what's people gonna say about you? Like, because the thing is, like, even with my own group of friends and that, it, like, caused division, when I first started and all of this, because some people were like, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, bro, don't do that. You're like, hell no, man. Like, bro, that's, like, we don't do that sort of stuff, like, and, but then I also had bros that were like, bro, go hard. You know what I mean? Just do it. Who cares, bro? Like, who cares what he thinks? And so that helped definitely. But yeah, man, I had the critiques and you know, that's why at the in the beginning stages of going social media, in a sense, it was a pretty lonely journey. You know, just went at it alone. And cut everyone off. It was a good a year or two of just isolation, really, physical isolation, and just because the thing is, I started going to church again, and because the thing is, when I first had that encounter with God and found the Lord, I was still like in the mentality like, all right, I'm reading the Bible now. Um, like that's gonna be me. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to go to a church. You know, and I'm still a big believer in that. But yeah, I never thought I would walk into a church again though. I was just like, no, I've made my commitment in my heart with God, so like that's it. You know, and like I don't need the church part. And I still am a big believer in that. But yeah, eventually, I did start going back to church as well, and got a new community of friends, you know, and that helped heaps, that part of it, you know what I mean? Just meeting a community of people and, um, yeah, I guess just in a sense learning what true friendship is, you know? Like I got my boys that I got mad love for, um, but in a sense, I see that like when you're in that life, you don't really know what a good friend is or how to be a good friend, really, you know? Because things can switch up so quick, you know what I mean? And like, you know, especially in jail, you know what I mean? Like, man, if someone doesn't do like the right thing and the code, you know, the whole prison politics and the code and all this sort of talk, like, you know, you could have a best friend that all ends up becoming like nobody to you, you know? So it's so like, what is it? It's so hard to know what a good friend is when you're in that life. But then when I sort of stepped out and started meeting other people, and then you know they're checking up on me and like, how you going, bro? Like just those random checkups. I always used to think like, wow, like out of it, you know. But yeah, just finding that community of people really helped me as well. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a challenge in the social media space in the sense of yeah, it was really lonely in those beginning stages, but that's what I needed because even before when I first got out of prison and got deported, I used to hate being alone. You know, like that's why as soon as work was done, I was calling up the boys like, "Where are we going out?" You know what I mean? Like every night though, you know, and we'll go out every single night, and because I just used to hate being alone. Even when I used to go to sleep at night, I used to hate it, you know, because it was like just because then my thoughts, you know what I mean, just getting stuck in my thoughts and just all the crap would come up again. And so learning to be by myself and being comfortable with being by myself, that was a huge achievement and something that I'm really glad I can do now. And it's hard for a lot of people to be alone, you know, and things like this. So yeah, bro. So look, the last 3 years of my life, 4 years of my life has been a blessing. Life's been really good to the point now where obviously I'm opening up about some of the challenges that I'm facing, but we're in it with pride, 100%. It's like being in a wheelchair, you know, like most people couldn't imagine being in a wheelchair, you know. But the thing is, once you're in a wheelchair, if something happens and you end up in a wheelchair, you got to get on with it. Like, look, the best advice that I could give 100% is just don't worry about what people think of you. You know, like, look at me, you know, telling people I'm a virgin, telling people this and that. Like, for me, there's just no, you know, I ain't worried about what people think, you know, and you can't go through life worrying about what people think about you because that's just what holds people back. People, even in the criminal world, you know what I mean? A lot of what stops people leaving that life behind from handing those colors in or doing, they might give a lot of different reasons, but you just peel it back, and a lot of the times it's because they're worried about what people are going to think of them. That's such a big one that holds people back. And also, but then also that stems to like low self-confidence, you know, and low self-esteem. So yeah, just always back yourself, believe yourself. Like that's definitely one problem I never had. You know, like even though I wasn't the most confident person or anything like that, really, outwardly anyway. But I always had like that inner confidence, you know, like even starting the podcast and stuff, I always knew like, man, I'm gonna be taking over the world with this. You know what I mean? Like there was just no doubt in my mind, even though I couldn't see anything of how it's gonna turn out, I just backed myself 100%. You know, so that's the best thing you can do. Back yourself, no plan B. You know what I mean? The plan B is to make plan A work, you know, so that's how it is for me, man. It's just plan A, like by any means necessary, whatever I gotta do, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna achieve it. And yeah, more power to you. Much love. God bless. Yeah, much love.